Okay, you could go ahead.
Right. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity. Today, my colleague, Pauline Cordner, and myself, Dexter Henry, will be presenting to you Being in Communities, Chapter 9 of Exploring Leadership, the second edition by Kumips S., Lucas N., McMahon TR. So the topics to be discussed in this chapter would be the nature of communities, community development principles, and the role of active members within practicing communities. So we have a little diagram here just indicating the elements of relational leadership, right? That you must be purposeful, you must be empowering, ethical, inclusive, and process-oriented, because we're relating, building communities in relation to the relational leadership model. So in order to discuss the nature of communities, we must look at the importance of community, especially in the relational leadership model. So no matter where you live, work, or play, I am sure that you are part of a community. Now, not all communities are perfect or ideal. But what is important is as long as the community strives to support each other and improve efforts and the members, then we can say they are heading in the right direction. Community produces groups of individuals who are united for a common objective and involved in continuous discussion pertaining to who they are and what matters to them, according to Whitley and Kellner Rogers. The community promotes understanding oneself and others to create and nurture the functions of the group or the organization, as the case may be. It creates the mindset for individuals to focus their attention to their responsibilities, the processes, and the spirit of working together. Ineffective communities results in a paradigm of expectations and norms with shared leadership and effective teamwork. Continuing with the importance of community in the relational leadership model. With the development of an effective community, members provide a supportive environment for individuals and the growth of the group or organization. According to Gardner, one of the most essential skills for a leader is the ability to build and rebuild communities. In this model of leadership, leaders attend to communities as a discipline, which refers to a concept to be studied, learned, and practiced, just like academic discipline. Some groups or community engage in supporting and caring for members. However, not all groups this happens. Some groups only focus on accomplishing goals, and if members are given the option, they would prefer not to be a member of these types of groups. Relational leadership model builds communities cultivating a shared leadership culture involving participants, resulting in effective working relationships. These communities share common purpose, trust, acceptance of people's emotional levels, willingness to share security to reveal emotions, thoughts, and opinions without criticism, among other benefits. So now we look at some of the elements of a community. A community is often described as a social group that not only shares an identity and structured pattern of interaction, but also has a geographical territory, according to Goodman. However, as we delve further into this chapter, we will recognize that a community is not limited to a place where interaction takes place, but also includes an attitude of connection and commitment which sustains relationships and purpose. A group of individuals who show concern for each other and pay attention to members' needs, results in a community where a sense of ownership and shared leadership is felt, but by individuals. This creates a unified team performing tasks through trust and teamwork to accomplish goals, guided by a process for making decisions, methods of communication, and commitment of participation by members. Ghana put forward 8 elements effective communities practice, which are wholeness incorporating diversity, a shared culture, good internal communication, caring, trusting, and teamwork, group maintenance and governance, participation and shared leadership tasks, development of young people or new members, links with the outside world, and just for knowledge, I placed a picture here of Mr. Ghana, so we know what he looks like and could put a face to the name. Community members, through their action, creates a shared culture showing concern for new members. Effective communities acknowledge that they don't function within a bubble, but in an environment that is always evolving and require constant dynamic interaction. Through this spirit of community, many other relational processes are made possible. The traditional and conventional views where communities were homogeneous groupings of people who resemble each other either by race, looks, ideology, and class are now being viewed differently. True communities are diverse in ideas, skills, experiences, and views, allowing for increased resilience and ability to face change with less limitation. Palmer describes a community as that place where the person you least want to live with always lives, and when that person moves away, someone else arises to take or fill that vacancy or empty position. Some traditional views believes communities require face-to-face interaction only possible through close proximity. Communities, however, are increasingly developing with limitless boundaries, such as the medical community and the spiritual community. With the development of technology, common spaces for minds to meet and interact have been provided in the form of chat rooms, blogs, and message boards. This created cyber communities for many groups wishing to remain hidden and in the background, even providing support and a sense of community without interaction. Part of the elements of community is providing for that desire as human to be inclusive, empowered with the ability to accomplish purposeful change. Common Center. A prolific author, scholar, literary translator, and political activist by the name of Martin Buber describes community as a group of people who have made a choice around a common center. To him, a true community was not a collection of people who will all think alike, but rather a group of individuals with diverse minds and a complementary nature. A group of leadership educators, on the other hand, define community as the binding together of diverse individuals committed to a just, common good through shared experiences in a spirit of caring and social responsibility. This was taken from the National Invitational Leadership Symposium, 1991. It went on to state that developing communities of this nature relies on the relational leadership model, which values all members and is empowering and inclusive with a member to work together toward common purposes. I'm sure we can all relate to this type of community. This practice creates communities where openness is practiced, encouraging individuals to express their thoughts and opinions. It requires relational leaders to be inclusive, empowering, in order to achieve objectives. Leaders must be willing to give up control and listen to others despite having conflicting ideas and accepting the fact that their own needs will not always prevail. Monologue is long speeches by a particular individual. In this case, we'll be referring to the leader. So we are saying to promote community, the leader should avoid monologue and be willing to give up that control and allow others to have their say. This leads to having a place or having to place your own need on the back burner sometimes. Now, Boba reminds us that this does not mean as a leader, you must accept everything else just to create or promote community. That would only be creating false peace. Rather, as a leader, you must be committed to greater values. Edzioni states that other than the inner self, communities are the most important sustaining source of moral voices. In communities where we exhibit our true values to which we are committed, and the difference between our espoused values and committed values become transparent. This is where we mirror our true selves. I am sure that most of us, if not all of us, are members of communities. Isn't it so? Nobody here? So we all live in a bubble?
No, we live in community. Sorry. Yes, we are here. We live in
Also
community.
as well, not only where you live, but also where we work, we are members of communities there as well. Even right now at Costat, we are a member of a community. It is not good enough to be a mere member or a passive member, just making up numbers. Or sometimes you may be in so many different groups that it is difficult to give each one equal amounts of time, focus, and dedication. What is important is the effort to be engaged in teamwork for the successful production of an outcome. In effective communities, each member contributes in meaningful ways. It does not mean that each individual must contribute equally. Because each person is unique and has their own commitments. There are individuals who choose to make themselves isolated despite being surrounded by many communities. However, their life can become much more connected if they just give it a chance to become involved meaningfully in what Herbert Gans refers to as urban villages. Urban villages is the small communities within the larger system. The social network formed within these communities are critical to achieving shared goals as well as personal identification and satisfaction. Robert Putnam, an American political scientist and educator, refers to social capital as features of social organization, such as networks, norms, and social trust that facilitate coordination and cooperation for mutual benefit. Practicing communities require assessment of policies, behaviors, norms, and other structures to identify weaknesses that prohibit meaningful involvement of community members. So it's like the SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities to build more on it, as well as the threats that could weaken it. Effective communities practice a culture that includes members in decision-making, promotes personal development, empowering individuals. Reward systems that is ethical, valuing effort and hard work. Working together as one team to accomplish goals, being purposeful, and follows a process, making the environment more effective. According to Harvard sociologist Charles Wiley, There are concurrent obligations of contributing justice and distributive justice in any community. Contributive justice is a requirement for each individual to uphold obligations and be committed to shared purpose when contributing to the greater whole. Uphold obligations and a feeling of shared purpose. Distributive justice is the practice of the community to ensure that each member is heard, cared for, included in activities, and not advantaged by fellow members. The practice also includes removing members who are not contributing or willing to uphold shared values. Practicing communities, according to Ulrich, thrives on serial reciprocity, creating a civilized culture for helping each other without expectation. Arun Gandhi, a socio-political activist, journalist, author, and a philanthropist, and motivational speaker, the fifth grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, reflects on one of the lessons he learned from his grandfather, the lesson of what caused violence in human life. So according to Mahatma Gandhi, wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice, politics without principle, and rights without principles. Arun propagates that if we can recognize and eliminate violence perpetuated mentally, verbally, and physically against ourselves and others, we too can plant seeds of peace and cultivate a life and global community enshrined in love. So part of building communities is knowing what causes violence and this disruption so that we can avoid it and probably eliminate it so that we could better develop communities. I would now like to pass you over to my colleague, Ms. Pauline Cordner. Pauline? Pauline? Right, yes, I'm hearing you now. Let me just make sure and try and see how best we could get everybody else to hear you clearly. Could anybody just indicate that they're hearing Pauline clearly? Pauline, you could go ahead, please. Sorry, we're not hearing you clearly. Right, yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Development of community. According to Scott Peak, 1987, there are 4 stages of developing a true automatic community. Authentic community, which are the community, the stage where things appear to be good and everyone seems to be getting along, but actually in specifically on the development level. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am hearing you, Pauline.
So everyone hearing okay?
Let me just confirm that. Is everybody else hearing Pauline?
I'm not hearing.
Oh, you're not hearing.
She's very distant though, but trying hard.
All right. Pauline, if you could try as best and speak loudly so that you may need to slow it down too so that we could hear you clearly, please. Thanks. Continue, Pauline.
Yes, you hear me now?
Yes, I am hearing you. Go ahead.
Am I hearing you, Dexter?
Yes, I am hearing you. You go ahead.
Okay. Chaos is the stage where perceptiveness, opinions, view, and ideas from different individuals and assessed to determine process. Just a second. Processing an agenda of the community organization, emptiness. Emptiness is the realization and acknowledgement, as well as understanding that personal feelings can be barriers to true listening and understanding. Requires emptying oneself of the assumption of perceived notion, preconceived notion. Disagreement requires to truly produce better decisions through findings and capable ways to be heard and fostering a culture of people. Communities perform challenges tasks would recognize greater success from implication of big stages. Take a change, please. Individual effective community building principles. Be committed and commitment to others. Those others to receive because for committed. Be mindful about what you do and say. Be unconditionally accept others as they are. Do not try to change or control them. Be concerned for yourself as well as others. Listen to advice. Listen to advice others and give advice. Be understanding. Strive to understand others and completely as possible. Be ethical. Engage in behavior that morally right in and of itself. Be peaceful. Always aim for internal harmony. Harmonious relation with others. Once participation of the community practice, community build skills and engage the group will benefit from attentive respectful participants, solution-oriented members, and improve learning environment. College communities. College campuses have been described as learning communities or communities of scholars for many years. However, this is not always the case. Not all people know and care for each other. And crimes still occur in this environment. Based on the study conducted by Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching 1990, it was observed that members of the community expressed a renewed sense of community. Community that embarks different common purpose today.
Yes, we hear you. Yes, we hear you. You continue pulling. We hear you. Thanks.
Next. College community continues. College campus is a community comprised of multiple communities, which is milestone of society. Their common purpose are academic freedom, students development, and scholarship. If the principle of the community is the intentional practice, regardless of the mission and focus, members will experience a healthy community. Most in 1998 states identify our common interests and furthering our relationship will be the defining elements of the 21st century communities. The global communities of the future will be at best a series of communities that are independent and diverse, embracing differences, releasing energy, and building cohesion. Recap in this chapter, we explore the importance of community, especially in relation to the relational leadership model. The benefits of being in the community for the members, the group, the organization, and productivity level were also defined. We also discussed several definitions of community and elements of community. How the view of communities have evolved from the traditional and conventional ways it was viewed. It also detailed the practices of effective community and how members engage in developing this country. The final topic discussed communities in college and defined the 21st century.
All right, these are just the sources of our information for your reference, so you could also look it up. And we just like to leave you with this quote from Dr. Josie Quist, Thought Leadership and Relational Leadership Update. Your priority should be to share meaningful content that leads to positive outcomes for others, not on being called a thought leader. We would like to thank you all for your time, your patience, and are there any questions for us? Hello?
All right,
Hello?
if there are no questions, we'll stop the recording.